sitting there watching it to make sure that it's working. I have all of these other things that I'm supposed to be doing. So it should be working right now. I actually sat there and watched it go. Yes, the show is always on. If it's not working on YouTube, you should come over and tell me on one of the other platforms where it is working. Let me say thank you very much to My Undivided Life for the $20 rant. She says, challenge met and added a bit for you. Terrific show, night after night. That's talent. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Also, Q Patriot Angel says, I give up picking up a burger sometime this week to match the challenge. You are a dear. Thank you for that. And then Climber63, a $100 rant. Sir, thank you so much. Still wanting to help with your honeymoon fund. God bless Zach and Lisa from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. You're awesome, dude. Thank you so much. Lisa was just looking at potential places we could maybe go for our honeymoon. So when we decide, we'll go ahead and let you guys know. Appreciate you. All right, so moving past the X conundrum, I do have a little bit of an unsettling information to bring you guys as it relates to baby Gabriel, who was just born in the state of Texas after Ken Paxton had filed a motion to intervene and ensure that baby Gabriel received the life-saving and necessary medical care that he was going to need as soon as he came out of the womb. It would appear that the gay couple who had sought to have this young woman bear their child, they have actually fought for the custodial right. So the legal battle over this young child who, if it was up to them, would already be dead, has taken a disturbing turn this week. Now, of course, they're from California, and they had repeatedly tried to get her to abort this baby. But now that the baby is born, they want their gaby, okay? They want custody, and they have now taken the surrogate basically to court. Now, the surrogate had refused their demands, and she even said that if you don't want this child, I will fight for custody of this child. McKenna West is the young woman, the Alaskan nurse, and current mother of two, who had rejected the murderous demands of these parents after a 20-week diagnosis had announced that young Gabriel would be born with hypoplastic left heart syndrome. It is a serious congenital defect, but it does allow itself to make its way through after a number of surgeries, so it's totally treatable. So she fled to Texas because she knew Texas was going to be more sympathetic, but even more so because the doctors that work in this particular area of the country have got a lot of experience working with this hypoplastic left heart syndrome. So she named the baby Gabriel. However, the parents, the sperm donors, I don't know which one donated the sperm, one of them, but they have actually named it something else. Now, when she spoke with the New York Post, she said, every life matters. No woman should be forced to end the life of a baby she is carrying, including me. Baby Gabriel should receive a chance at life. The biological parents, Nausheen Gilkar and Omar Ahmed, it's interesting because they sound like they might be Muslim names. And of course, that would be forbidden in Islam. Anyways, who they refer to the child as Rumi. Maybe they're not Muslim. I don't know. But now they have custody while he receives this medical treatment. At the very least, the good news is that baby Gabriel, or as they are calling him, baby Rumi, will be allowed to continue receiving this medical treatment. So as far as this goes, all we know is that she is still fighting. She is seeking parentage of the child. Texas is, of course, also fighting this. Her attorney is a man by the name of Lincoln Wilson, and he has declared that under Texas law, the woman who gives birth is the legal mother, and he's vowing to challenge the court orders which have given parental custody to the parents, the couple from California. So he wants to challenge those court orders from California. He says that they are void because Texas is the location where the baby was born, and they plan to fight it all the way to the Supreme Court if necessary. So I wish them the best of luck, because I think that this baby will probably be in better hands if it's raised by the young woman who actually bore it. Let's take a look at a video. I haven't actually seen young McKenna West speaking yet. Wait, hold on. I feel like maybe my speakers. Yeah, hold on just a second. Yep. Okay. Got it fixed.
abortion schedule in Seattle. Originally, I would have been 22 weeks at the time of this one, but I was having a really hard time. He's controlling my decision with me.
And there's other things to consider here too. I mean, first of all, obviously, I think the baby would be better served living with this mom, even if she's not the biological mother. She carried that baby as a surrogate for 9 months. She has fought against all odds to go to Texas to make sure that the baby survives and that it receives the necessary medical care. The fathers, the gay couple that provided the sperm for this child, they were ready to toss the baby aside, I should say, at 20 weeks because it was going to have a minor heart defect. I mean, a baby is not a accessory. And that's the thing about all too often that we see these gay couples that have a woman carry a child for them so that they can then parade around a child of color or whatever, a gaby, if you will. And then they can use that as some part of their story or their identity. And you can see how it's affecting her. On top of the fact that just the psychological trauma of knowing that they were basically telling her, you must abort this child because we don't want a broken child. The action of getting an abortion for a healthy woman, not only is it psychologically damaging, but it's also physically damaging. And abortions can lead to all kinds of physical problems for women later on down the line. It's absolutely horrific to imagine the amount of trauma that she's been pushed through. So, and let's be clear, I saw somebody say something about an anchor baby in the chat. No, this is an American citizen. The fathers are also American citizens. They're Californians, okay? But they're still American citizens. And the child would have been an American citizen as well. So not an anchor baby type situation. No, the gay couple part has not been debunked. It's two men. There's no debunking the gay couple part. This is two men who had her be their surrogate. Oh, God. Absolutely horrific. Anyways, I wish her all the best. I'm glad that she went to the state of Texas. I think that the state of Texas is probably going to see this all the way through. Anyways, every life matters. All of us know this. Nobody should ever be forced to have an abortion, even if that child was not genetically the same as the mother. So again, the biological parents, Nausheen Gilkar and Omar Ahmed. Let me just do a quick Google search for anybody who thinks that the parents are not a gay couple. Let's see. Oh, okay. Yeah, they're not picturing them. Anyways, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe they'll come out at some point in the future if they're not too ashamed about the whole thing. Anyways, and I also saw somebody say surrogacy should be banned. I mean, I generally speaking, I think that the people who end up using surrogacy centers, they tend to be like wealthy people who don't want to damage their bodies and also want to have a child as an accessory. But there are also people like, maybe a woman who has had a hysterectomy and through no fault of her own, they have their eggs frozen, and then, she and the husband want to have a child that is biologically theirs. I mean, I can think of reasons why surrogacy is good. But generally speaking, yeah, I think that there are a lot of children out there who need to be loved and would, happily be adopted. The problem here again is that there have been too many situations where like gay men have adopted children or had surrogate children. They want to basically make like designer children. If they're not perfect, they're not happy. They might abuse them. Of course, that's not universal, but it's happened way too many times for it to at least not be a topic of the conversation. Anyways, well, hold on. Let's do it. Somebody says Nausheen. I mean, Omar definitely sounds male, but I've never heard the name Nausheen before. What to know? No. Well, it looks like maybe Nausheen, man's name? Oh, well, they're saying it's traditionally a female name. Okay, I don't know. Maybe it has been debunked. I haven't seen it debunked. I've only seen it quoted that this was a gay couple. Either way, the parents are evil. That's all that I care about. Okay, anyways. Also, coming out of California, this was announced yesterday, and I didn't have a chance to get to it. However, the U.S. Department of Justice, through Harmeet Dillon and Bill Asalee, announced that they have the reasonable cause to believe that the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, so this is the California State Prison System, specifically for women, the Central California Women's Facility in Chowchilla, and the Central Californian Institution for Women in Chino, are both in violation of the U.S. Constitution. Why? Because they are failing to protect their female prisoners. Apparently, they are knowingly allowing their female inmates to be raped and harassed by their staff. So it's interesting. They spent so many years, I guess, grandstanding to us, mute on Foxhole. Wait a second. How is it muted on Foxhole? Nobody else is saying it's muted anywhere else. No audio. Okay, they are still saying that it's muted. Okay, well, let me try something else. Okay, well, we'll try it again. Thank you for letting me know that it was muted on Foxhole. They grandstanded to us for years, telling us that women needed equal protection and equal rights. And, believe me, I think that, all people should have the same rights and all that stuff. But really, it was about, the special consideration for women. And then as soon as the trans issue came to be, it was like anything that was given to women previously was immediately stripped away. And they allowed men to enter women's prison. And of course, that led to rapes and sexual assaults and all of that as well. And then, of course, now they're also doing that with the prison guards, apparently. So women truly have no protections anywhere. It is very, very sad. I'm going to go ahead and test the audio one more time. Okay, so that should be working now. Thank you very much. Also, Filter Dog, thank you for the can. No thanks, Joe says, happy Friday, Lisa and Zach. After a great week of reporting, I hope you have a great weekend. God bless and be safe, y'all. Thank you for that. Who cares? Says, sound's not working. I believe I should have just fixed that. Did you abort us on build because we didn't hear the clips? I'm so sorry. I wish somebody would have come over and told me sooner. As I told everybody yesterday, I don't have a big monitor because my monitor died the other day, so I can't monitor the chats. I've got the Rumble chat over here, but I don't have room for all of the other chats because it is a very, very small screen. All of the other chats are over on this screen, and it's like a 12-inch monitor, and I can't see anything because I need new glasses, too. All right, so thank you very much, you guys. I appreciate it. Lee Walden also says, please share with others like CanCon that the parents are gay. Well, I'm willing to concede that I may be wrong on that because I've only seen it reported that the parents are gay. CanCon may have access to more information than I do, so I don't know. But I'll check with him, and if he's got some details that I have not been privy to, then I will happily correct that with you guys. All right. Now, we are going to move into Florida. We're going to watch that Byron Donalds clip here in just a second. However, Amendment 3, this is the amendment to essentially begin the process of reducing and then eliminating property taxes on homesteaded properties, with the exception of property taxes that go to fund public schools. The title of the amendment has now been changed, and this is not the same thing as what we saw in California. California, Rob Bonta had recently changed the language, not only the title, but the language of the amendment to require identification when you vote. In the state of Florida, Amendment 3 is getting a new name. However, this is as a result of a decision by a judge. So this was ordered by Leon County Judge David Frank. And as a result of that order, Attorney General James Uthmeyer has rewritten the ballot language for Amendment 3 that me and anybody else down here in Florida is going to see when they go to vote on the 18th. So just to give you a rundown of what the circumstances are, this is a proposal that would raise the homestead exemption to $150,000 beginning next year. Currently, I believe it's like it starts at $25,000, and then when you get that better homestead exemption, it is $50,000. So this is immediately going to take a pretty big chunk out of the property taxes we're paying. And then the following year, it would raise it to $250,000. The thing is that it needs 60% of the voters going into the ballot box on the 18th to vote yes in order for it to pass. So the title the legislature gave it was the Save Our Homes from Excessive Property Taxes. That's gone. Now, the reason that's gone is because it sounded too close to a political slogan, the judges said, and that's actually illegal in the state of Florida. The new title for the amendment is Increased Homestead Exemption, Lower Cap on Increases in Non-Homesteaded Property Assessments. And that's exactly what it is, and it makes sense. Now, as I've said from the very beginning, I think that the Florida state legislature and the Senate have attempted to set this amendment up to fail. It's not perfect. It's not what we want. It's certainly not what DeSantis asked for, but DeSantis does support this amendment. He said that he is voting for it. He's not campaigning for it because it's not the one that he wanted, but he is going to vote for it, and so am I. So this amendment increases the homestead exemption for all non-school taxes to $150,000 in 2027 and $250,000 in 2028, and it adjusts for inflation thereafter. Now, this is the other thing, and this is very important because as you've seen, people like Grady Judge are out there saying, like, we don't know how this is going to affect Florida law enforcement. Number one, it's already a law in the state that municipalities have to fund law enforcement first. So law enforcement is not going anywhere. But in the language of the amendment, it also requires the legislature to prescribe a uniform procedure for counties and municipalities for their respective levies to increase the homestead exemption up to the full assessed value, and it allows special districts subject to referendum approval to do the same. So this is moving towards essentially eliminating the vast majority of property taxes. Now, schools, I did the math on mine, and I think that my property taxes will go down to about $1,200 a year, which is far better than the $8,000 a year I'm paying right now. So I'm stoked about this. And again, Governor DeSantis says he is going to vote for the amendment, but he won't campaign for it because the legislature scrapped his proposals to eliminate all school property taxes as well, and then to create that trust fund to backstop local governments. Now, that is something that can still be done in the future, and there can be work done on this in the future as well. Now, the language was changed as a result of Judge Frank. Again, Judge Frank ruled that the original summary endorsed the amendment and amounted to political rhetoric. He also objected to claims that the measure protects core services, safeguards small businesses, and ensures fairness for Florida residents. His ruling capped 3 consolidated lawsuits that were brought by the nonprofit Save Our Voters from Misleading Ballot Language, former Stewart Mayor Thomas Campenny, and former Key Biscayne Mayor Michael Davey, also former South Miami Mayor Philip Stoddard, as well as former Democratic U.S. Rep. Al Lawson and former Republican State Senator Jeff Brandes. So pretty much the people who were suing were people who are hoping that this doesn't pass. So I would like to suggest that every single person here who is planning to vote on the 18th vote in favor of this. It's going to be a pretty decent threshold for us to meet to get 60% of the people to vote yes on it. But it also will help to cap increased taxes on businesses and stuff like that. It's most going to benefit homesteaded property owners, and I think a lot of those people vote down here in Florida. So let's go ahead and take a look at this clip that was sent over by Barry on X. He says, this video sums up Byron Donalds' unsuitability to be Florida governor simply based on who he would be answering to. Not to we the people here in Florida, but to Silicon Valley billionaires, Flock, APAC, herbicide and pesticide companies, private prison owners, surveillance state interests, including police tag and traffic camera vendors, plus others who don't have our best interests in mind, owning and controlling him. I agree with all these statements. That has been my experience as I investigate exactly who it is that Byron Donalds will likely be representing if he does become the governor. We, the people, don't have a chance should former registered Democrat Byron Donalds be selected in the primary. God forbid. Donalds refuses to debate the fellow Republican candidates. True, there are so many reasons for people to see Mr. Donalds' unsuitability for any public office, especially Florida governor in the free state of Florida. Waking up Florida before it's too late. Please share with and educate others. Now, he has quite a few references in here. You can go check out his Telegram channel. He's got another source from at MakeItMark7. And then below is a link to my post on X appealing to the Trump family to not let this public awakening operation or whatever it is get out of the hands with their perceived support for TV character Byron Donalds. Let's go ahead and watch this video. This is likely going to include a number of things that we've already covered here in the past, but I'm hoping that it has something in there that I'm not aware of. Let's go ahead and take a look. IHOF, are you upset about the Bobs? Because fully 50% of the population have video is still not no sound unpilled. Are you kidding me? There's nothing else that I can do unpilled to change the fact that sound isn't working. That means that sound isn't working on X. It means sound isn't working on Getter. It means sound isn't working on YouTube. Are you guys, it's still not working? There's nothing that I can do, guys, because it is there. Yeah, there's no other settings that I can change, and I don't know why this is not working today. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to recommend everybody has to come over to Rumble because that's the only one where things seem to be working. All of this stuff is going through StreamYard to these other platforms, and there is nothing else that I can do to change the settings. Hold on. Let me just try something. Let me try something. Hang on. Speaker. I know everybody has sound on Rumble because Rumble is running through Rumble. Okay. So are you telling me that you did not just hear? Okay, so you guys are saying it's okay? All right. So, yeah, I apologize that the sound isn't working on through StreamYard. It should be 5x0. There's nothing else that I can do. Yeah, there's literally nothing else that I can do. So I apologize that nobody else is getting the sound. Maybe pull up Rumble just for the video clips. There's not going to be like a ton of them, but there are going to be some. So I apologize that it's not working. I don't know why. Okay, so basically she's talking about the public, the private interests that Byron Donalds is receiving money from. And of course, all politicians get money from somebody. But AI data centers are a major concern. And down here in Florida, we've got a number of competing interests that are seeking to take land that is not vacant in use, but in many of these instances, these AI data centers will look at a farm, they'll look at a ranch, and they'll say, well, gosh, we could put up a $10 billion data center there and we'll make a ton of money. And so we'll buy those people out. But the other competing interest is the developers. And the developers are quite literally building homes and neighborhoods with absolutely no plan. Florida is a bad real estate market right now. I have no idea. Oh, hey, Kay, I'm following you on Patriot Social. Sweet. Yeah, and we should be able to stream on Patriot Social here in the near future. I got an email from them. But the developers that are building new homes in Florida, it makes absolutely no sense because we've got just a glut in the housing market. People are unable to sell their homes, and I have no idea why they're building more homes. And then at the same time as they build them, they take all of this free and open Florida land. It destroys the ability of the ecosystem to clean and process water and store it in the aquifer. It takes away from the farmers and the ranchers that need the land to raise their stock. It's a real problem. This is another reason that I, support either Renner or Fishback because both of them are anti-flock. I got a pretty good graphic that I need to pull up from my phone to show you guys because it goes through a whole list of issues that people are taking sides on. All right. So, yes, definitely aware of all of those things there. So I was, and Barry, I'm still looking for something that you can point to in relation to the announcement that James had done in that that press conference. So I'm scrolling through here. Okay. Patrick Cowley is reporting. I saw that. Okay, so I don't see anything related to those claims. But again, I am very interested to be able to bring that and report on it. So we'll see what happens. All right, you guys, let's go to Loudoun County. We're going to talk about the state of immigration and the recent crackdowns. Now, this is the first of what will be an ongoing set of operations in Loudoun County, Virginia. This is the first time they have surged into this area, and this is obviously one of the places that needs it the most. Community members are reporting a large number of local arrests by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement because this is it's a sanctuary jurisdiction. This is also, strangely enough, the area where they had allowed a trans high schooler to sexually assault several young girls. So Loudoun County, Virginia has a major problem. Also, this is where that prosecutor works that had come in and testified before Congress. We watched some clips from that. And he basically has rewritten laws to allow people to get off without having justice done, and essentially blocked the efforts of the federal government to arrest illegal aliens. Well, that's not going to happen now. So people in Loudoun County are very, very upset. Looks like they're going to pizza places. They're going to home goods stores. And we don't know exactly who they're looking for. They're just looking for anybody. Anyways, they're very upset about it. And so all of these local activists are out and taking pictures and posting videos online. And I have to say, I love to see it because these people have been in this country for far too long. Let's take a look at one instance. Zelaya Franco's wife spoke with Loudoun Now, a local Loudoun County, Virginia publication, saying that he had been in the country for the last 14 years and has never been in trouble with the police. Well, just because you've been here for 14 years illegally and you haven't been arrested yet doesn't mean there isn't always going to be a first time. And now that ICE is in your backyard, there you go. She said that Zelaya Franco works in the fencing industry and has 2 children. That's an attempt to appeal to our hearts and our sympathies. But I have no sympathy for these people, as I have said on so many different occasions. Now, Zelaya Franco is being held at a detention center in Cibola County, New Mexico, according to an ICE data set. A Homeland Security spokesperson said Zelaya Franco entered the United States illegally at an unknown date and time near McAllen, Texas, and he has lived illegally in the country for over 13 years. He will remain in ICE custody pending removal proceedings and will receive full due process. These people are just going to have to get used to the idea that these illegal aliens are no longer going to be welcome in our country. They never were in the first place, but, you know, this is how it goes. Wow, some weird stuff is happening over there on my my X feed. Okay. I need to say thank you to several people. First of all, Trisha. Trisha says that my eldest son and his wife tried everything they could afford to have a child. After a year with no positive results, my younger son and his wife decided to have a child for them. He's 10 now. See, perfect example of how surrogacy can be a very positive and potentially necessary tool to use. Trisha, that's beautiful. Bubafinu says YouTube still throttles. Rumble 5x5. Warrior Mima gifted a subscription to Deb Rich. And then Jeff Forrest gifted 5 subscriptions to 5 other Patriots over on Rumble. And then Jeff Forrest also donated $5 in Bitcoin. Thank you, sir. Love you, brother. Carry on. I really appreciate you. Also, Filter Dog Unpilled said the video sound was working when you started the show. It stopped during the surrogate video. And so, yeah, that is the thing. I can't think of any reason why that would be, because the sound is all coming through the same. So it worked initially. Nobody told me that it was a problem. And then I start playing videos on my browser, and then suddenly it stops working. There is one trick, and I used it, and it didn't work. And I'm sorry, guys. I am going to have to try to figure out what the deal is. All right, so we do have some updates in regards to what we spoke about yesterday and the student visa program. The DHS and their team have announced a little bit more to give us some guidance on exactly how this is going to work. Now, as we've spoken about for decades here in the United States, foreign students have been allowed to come here on a student visa. And as long as they're going to school, they can stay here for decades. They just have to take one class or 2. That is over. Homeland Security has announced a new set of rule changes to that student visa program. First and foremost, number one change is the amount of time that a foreign student can spend here. They are limiting that amount of time to a 4-year degree program. The amount of time is typically 4 years. If you finish before the 4 years is up, then, well, it's time to go home. If you don't graduate on time, unfortunately, your visa expires, and you're going to have to see if your credits will transfer someplace else. These changes were actually made back in July, but it's only now getting some necessary coverage because the policy goes into effect at the beginning of September. So this has been abused by many, many years by people who come here and never leave. The changes are long overdue. As I've shown you on so many different occasions, there is a number of different paths that immigrants can take, usurpers, invaders can take to go from one visa to another, and they just continuously go back and forth, back and forth. This is the actual release from the DHS. So Trump administration issues final rule to end foreign student visa abuse. Today, the DHS announced the publication of a final rule that officially eliminates the duration of status loophole that allowed foreign students, exchange visitors, and media representatives to remain in the United States indefinitely without routine government oversight. The new regulation establishes a fixed period of admission for non-immigrant visa holders in F, J, and I classifications. This decisive shift restores integrity to the nation's immigration system, combats rampant visa abuse, and strengthens national security through regular vetting. A fixed period of admission is currently in place for many other types of non-immigrant visas. For nearly half a century, the outdated duration of status system has compromised national security and created an environment ripe for immigration fraud. This is DHS Secretary Markwayne Mullin. For decades, foreign students have been admitted into the United States indefinitely, allowing thousands to abuse our immigration system by perpetually enrolling in courses to avoid having to leave the U.S. By implementing clear, finite limits on these visas, the United States is reclaiming its ability to properly screen, vet, and monitor individuals within our borders. This final rule ensures the foreign students remain focused on their primary purpose, completing their studies and returning home. Now, since 1978, foreign students have been allowed to come into the United States for an unspecified period of time. That has enabled thousands of people to become students forever. They perpetually enroll in courses, and as such, they never have to be facing departure. This final rule will end that exploitation and create a number of reforms. Again, we have the fixed admissions caps. Non-immigrant students under F visas and exchange visitors under J visas will be admitted for the length of their specific program, and it may not exceed a maximum period of 4 years. You also have mandatory federal extensions of visa holders that require additional time to complete an academic program must formally apply for an extension of stay directly through U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. So this transitions oversight from the university staff back to federal authorities, and it subjects applicants to biometric vetting, background checks, fraud screenings. They're going to take a look at their social media while they were here as well. Also, a reduced departure grace period. This is just like the reduced departure grace period we have on H-1Bs. The time allowed for F1 students to prepare for departure, transfer schools, or change status following graduation is reduced from 60 days now down to 30 days. And they have program change restrictions. That means that this is a new rule that restricts limitations on academic changes. If you come to the United States of America and you want to get a woman's study degree from Smith College in Massachusetts, and then you decide that that degree is probably not going to suit you and you're going to instead go into sales and marketing at Baylor, well, unfortunately, that may not be something you can do. So this is a very, very good change. It's, of course, not the only change that we need, but it seems that the administration every single day is coming up with new reasons on how to trim down and secure our immigration system. Thank you again, Jeff Forrest, and thank you to TZ Burton, who says, just because it's Friday, love the show, Zach. Thank you for that. I really do appreciate it. All right. Listen, before we continue, I have to actually give a shout out to a sponsor that's going to be my friends over here at Rumble. You guys, as you probably have heard by now, crypto can be intimidating, depending on how much you know. There is a big part about crypto, though, that many people don't often talk about, and that's the fact that it was started so that you could actually own and control your own money. I'm sure you are all aware that after the 2008 financial crisis, money became tight, and banks didn't want to give it out. So Bitcoin was designed as an alternative to banks. So instead of a bank holding on to your money, delaying transfers, limiting access, or losing it, it puts you in control. And if you've ever had to wait for a transfer to clear, you have felt that problem. Now, fast forward to today, everybody's heard about crypto, but some might think that getting started feels a little bit complicated. This is exactly why Rumble Wallet is great, because it takes all the complexity out of it and it makes it simple. You choose what you want to work with: Bitcoin, dollar-backed stablecoins, or digital gold backed by real gold. There's no complicated setup. It connects directly with MoonPay, so you can use your credit card, debit card, or your bank account. You get up and running in just a couple of minutes, and then once you're set up, you can even support your favorite Rumble creators like me directly. Thank you again to Jeff Forrest. So do this now. If you're on Rumble, scan that QR code or click the link in the description, and you can download the Rumble wallet. If you're off platform, you can go to wallet.rumble.com. And then from there, you get your wallet set up, you tap buy, and you're in the game. So in just a few minutes, you can go from hearing about crypto to actually owning some, and then maybe supporting some worthwhile creators at the same time. Thank you very much to Rumble for continuing to support the program. All right. Next, still speaking about immigration. Due to all of the increased visibility of H-1Bs, the scandals related to H-1Bs, the scammers using H-1Bs, Capital One is no longer sponsoring H-1B visas. So this is a huge development. Every single software engineer position at Capital One has just received this text. At this time, Capital One will not sponsor a new applicant for employment authorization or offer any immigration-related support for these positions. That includes H-1B, F-1 Opt, F-1 STEM Opt, F-1 CPT, J-1, TN, E-2, E-3, L-1, and O-1, or any EADs or any other forms of work authorization that require immigration support from an employer. This is big news, and I think that it's only a matter of time before other employers start doing the exact same thing. It's become quite clear that Americans are being shut out of the job market, and especially in positions such as engineering, computer science, so many things, all go to people from other countries. And it looks like big employers like Capital One and many others are now getting to the point where it is just too much of a hassle. And I would imagine that there's probably also a couple of scams that have been caught, which have resulted in these companies essentially finding out that their employees are no longer legally allowed to work for them. So again, make sure that you're following all of this immigration stuff through X because there are so many good accounts that you can follow. Excuse me, the employment stuff, because there are quite a few individuals who are working right now to put pressure on these companies and make sure that they do the right thing and hire American. All right. Now, I'd also like to play this clip briefly from DHS Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen, because he did something that I think a lot of us have been waiting on. Many people have been asking since the beginning, why is it that the federal government doesn't use its power to punish sanctuary cities and sanctuary states, these various areas of the country which are flaunting federal law and allowing illegal aliens safe harbor in their localities? Not only is it a violation of federal law and a crime, but it also puts the American citizens who live in these areas at risk, because, of course, they are at greater risk for crimes to be committed against them by people who have no ties to the United States of America. It would appear that Mark Wayne Mullen and the president had a conversation earlier today to brainstorm exactly what they can do to put pressure on these jurisdictions. This is something that is long overdue. So effectively, for the people off Rumble, he is discussing the fact that these local sanctuary jurisdictions have passed laws which effectively make it illegal for law enforcement to work with ICE or other federal agencies. But all that ICE is doing is enforcing the law that Congress has legislated, okay? And that includes Congress people who are from these states that have now made these sanctuary jurisdictions. It's peak retardation. It makes absolutely no sense. So something needs to be done to bring these locations to heel so that we can get this taken care of. I mean, the amount of pain, heartache, crime, murder, accidental deaths that take place at the hands of illegal aliens is so disgusting. Now, I don't have anything specific to report on this, but Harmeet Dillon and the DOJ took a trip back to Michigan this week, and it definitely has got something to do with the primary elections and the reporting that was done by James O'Keefe and O'Keefe Media Group. So I am anxiously awaiting news coming out about that so that we can talk about that. Now, one more story on immigration. Good news. Yesterday, a federal appeals court delivered a huge win for President Trump in the Alien Enemies Act lawsuit. So this was an en banc panel, a full panel of the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals judges, and they ruled that a key lawsuit is now moot because the 3 men who brought the case have been deported. The Supreme Court remanded this case to us when the 3 named petitioners were still in the country. But we have since learned the government has removed them. Given this change, we conclude the appeal is moot. Given the lack of any named petitioners to whom we could grant relief in this appeal, and given that this case has never and does not now feature any class, we conclude the appeal is moot, and we therefore dismiss the appeal for lack of jurisdiction. So Judge James Ho, he is the Trump appointee who wrote the blistering concurring opinion backing President Trump's use of the Alien Enemy Act. President Trump last year, of course, invoked the Alien Enemies Act so that we could deport the dangerous Venezuelan gang members and anybody that President Trump has deemed to be a significant security threat to the United States of America. Although there were several district court judges who have ruled against President Trump's decision to invoke that Alien Enemies Act and, of course, deport those Venezuelan aliens, a federal judge in Pennsylvania has become the first to say that President Trump can invoke the Alien Enemies Act to deport them. Last year, we had the Supreme Court temporarily block the Trump administration from deporting those dangerous Venezuelan gang members under the AEA. In an unsigned order, the court said the Trump DOJ did not give the Venezuelans enough time to challenge their removals, which is a bullshit ruling. Under these circumstances, notice roughly 24 hours before removal, devoid of information about how to exercise due process rights to contest that removal, surely does not pass muster. The SCOTUS was so dreadfully wrong on this decision. They punted the case back down to the Fifth Circuit Court, and last year a 3-judge panel on that Fifth Circuit Court voted down Trump's invocation of the AEA. But now the entire court has dismissed the claim, and the administration is once again free to continue to use the Alien Enemies Act. I also have good news for you in the termination of Somalia temporary protected status. Now, Judge Burroughs is the judge who was appointed by Barack Hussein Obama and had, of course, been attempting in this particular circuit to stop President Trump from being able to implement his cancellation of Somali TPS. She had placed an administrative stay, and it was in place for 50 days. She dragged her feet on issuing the real order, and the reason was because she knew that the Supreme Court of the United States had already made a decision on this. So James Percival earlier today blasted the judge for defying the Supreme Court. He said, for 50 days, Allison Burroughs has maintained her unreasoned administrative stay of our termination of Somalia TPS, notwithstanding the SCOTUS decision. This, quote, administrative stay, to the extent it is lawful at all, is supposed to be quickly followed by a real order. Failure to issue such an order is deliberate sabotage. It's designed to infringe on the executive branch, but without issuing a clear and appealable order. After significant prodding, Judge Burroughs promised to issue that order by early this week. Well, now it's Friday. The only explanation for this is cynical gamesmanship by a politically motivated judge. And then later today, Judge Burroughs was forced to lift that administrative stay. So now the termination of TPS for Somalis is fully in effect. It was earlier this month when Judge Burroughs once again blocked the Trump administration from terminating it, and it was supposed to take effect on March 17th. But after a couple of weeks and now dragging her feet, more than 100,000 Somalis living in the United States, with an estimated 5,000 of them eligible for TPS, can and will now be removed. So looking forward to that. Now, just to give you a vibe check on where we stand with the termination of all TPS statuses, Haiti, Syria, Yemen, Afghanistan, Cameroon, Nepal, Honduras, Nicaragua, Venezuela, South Sudan, Burma, and as of today, Somalia are now all officially in effect, which means that the termination has moved forward and there are no further court cases that can stop the administration from doing it. The only one that we are still waiting on is Ethiopia, and that is because of Judge Brian Murphy. So we will continue to report until all TPS statuses have been fully vacated. I think it's only a matter of time because, again, in the same case as Judge Burroughs, she knew the Supreme Court had ruled on this, and her administrative stay was merely a delaying tactic. Judge Brian Murphy is doing the exact same thing. I can only hope that they finally start impeaching these judges. Now, in an effort to sort of quell the rampant judicial activism that we have across the country, the only real tool that the president himself has is to appoint people who he is fairly certain are going to do the right thing. And the former White House counsel staff has now just been appointed to the district court for the Eastern District of Tennessee. President Trump announced earlier on Truth Social, "I am pleased to announce the nomination of Samuel D. Atkinson to serve as a judge on the U.S. District Court of Tennessee. Sam is currently a special assistant in my White House counsel's office, where he has done an incredible job and worked on numerous important cases, including our historic win for the Slaughter case. Sam previously worked as an attorney in private practice and for the Senate Judiciary Committee during Justice Kavanaugh's successful confirmation. Sam was a top student at Vanderbilt University and Yale Law School and clerked for the Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court, John Roberts, and Federal Appeals Court judges Gregory Katsas and Amul Thapar. Sam has exemplified wisdom and courage. He loves the Constitution and will always defend the wonderful people of Tennessee." So he has now been appointed to that district, and that is one less thing that we have to worry about. All right, now we've also had a piece of disturbing information be revealed. There are two federal agencies that under the last administration was routing taxpayer dollars into terror-linked charities. Now, the State Department worked with an organization called World Vision so that they could distribute $2 billion in global health foreign assistance, even though there was already a court conviction showing that this nonprofit had a Gaza affiliate operations manager and was sending up to $50 million to Hamas in 2022. Separately, the Health and Human Services Department also provided nearly $80 million to 14 different organizations that were all in one way or another linked to terrorism and extremism. Now, the Middle East Forum has recently reported that 14 terror-linked and extremist organizations, all led by CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, collected nearly $80 million from Health and Human Services through the Refugee Resettlement, Health, and Mosque Renovation Grants. Now, through this fund, CARE and their California chapter received the most of any Islamist group. They collected $42.2 million in funding from HHS to provide legal and social services to Afghan refugees. All contributions and grants that CARE California receives are fully reported, accounted for, and used strictly for their intended purposes, subject to rigorous internal and external auditing and reporting. This transparency is why both private and public funders have worked with us and continue to do so. This was a statement from CARE speaking to Just the News when asked about funding terrorism. "We are proud to serve and defend the rights of American Muslims and immigrants, communities that greatly enrich our nation and contribute to its economic success." CARE has a long history of ties to terrorism, and the organization is not dropping bombs or, letting off suicide bombers, but they have worked with Hamas for many years, and Hamas is a terror-designated group in the United States government, and they also raised money for the same groups that were involved in 9/11. Now, since 2009, CARE has included a statement on their website. They said, "We unequivocally condemn all acts of terrorism, whether carried out by Al-Qaeda, the real IRA, FARC, Hamas, ETA, or any other group designated by the U.S. Department of State as a foreign terrorist organization." But the reason that announcement is on there is because in 2004, CARE settled a lawsuit that they had actually initiated while acknowledging that statements made by anti-CARE groups were accurate, and that included the statement that CARE is a terrorist-supporting front organization that receives some money from terrorists, and that the organization has links to and was also funded by Islamic terrorists. Further, at least 7 board or staff members at CARE have been arrested, indicted, pled guilty, or convicted of terrorism charges, or they have been denied entry into the United States of America due to terrorism charges. Now, CARE was also famously named as an unindicted co-conspirator by federal prosecutors in a criminal conspiracy to provide financial support to Hamas. This led to the FBI ending contacts with CARE out of a concern for that terrorism, and CARE did not respond when asked about that specifically. But other groups that received HHS funding included the Islamic Circle of North America's humanitarian wing, ICNA Relief. They collected $10.6 million while representing the American branch of an Islamist group that has been convicted of causing violence in South Asia. The Muslim American Society's Sacramento chapter received $90,000 to promote women's health literacy, even though that chapter was called an overt arm of the Muslim Brotherhood in America. That was by a federal appeals court. And Muslim Brotherhood, of course, is known for supporting female genital mutilation, which is the barbaric practice of cutting off a girl's sexual organs. Another organization, Dar al-Haraj, received $340,000 in HHS subgrants to promote coronavirus vaccines, but Dar al-Haraj is a mosque in Northern Virginia that helped 2 of the 9/11 hijackers find housing. 5 of the organizations that received the funds from HHS were overseas groups. They received $14 million between them, and these include a pollster with links to Palestinian Islamic Jihad and a West African college with a history of killing homosexuals and attacking suspected gay students. And they received funds to study homosexual Muslim men with HIV. The report found that 87% of the funding was approved under the Biden administration. Washington took the most vulnerable people on earth, refugees who fled the Taliban, and delivered them into the hands of the organizations that would most likely radicalize them. That is not compassion. That is a recruitment pipeline built at public expense, and every official who signed these awards owns it. So, yes, essentially, they were creating the next generation of Islamic terrorists. And, of course, you need that stuff if you're going to foment terrorism and then use it as an excuse to maybe crack down on people's rights or make them feel guilty about saying things like Islam is not compatible with American society. There's all kinds of reasons. But hilarious to me that this is only now just coming out. I feel like this is something that we've known. This has been pretty obvious. The government was not only fighting terrorism, but funding it. We've seen it in Syria. We've seen it in Afghanistan. We see it in the Middle East. Israel fights Hamas, but then they're also paying for Hamas. Anyways, this is a typical tactic that happens in government, and it's one of the main reasons that I believe Donald Trump came in and shut down USAID at the very start of his administration. Trisha says, I can't wait for all the customer service employees for people I do business with to stop using foreigners. I'm looking forward to that for you as well. I love that for you, Trisha. All right. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to do this to you. I know Kathy Hochul's on the screen, but we've got to talk about her because she has been bragging about spending millions of New Yorkers' taxpayer dollars on the legal bills for illegal alien children. Now, this was from a story that the New York Post did about Kathy Hochul spending upwards of $7 million in taxpayer money on the legal bills of these illegal immigrant youths in the state. It's also been found that Kathy Hochul directly profited from one of, if not multiple of, the immigrant scammers that were just outed by Nick Shirley in his recent expose in New York. We're talking millions of dollars that was going directly from these daycares, adult daycares, etc., and then into the coffers of Kathy Hochul's political campaigns. Now, when the Post promoted this story on X, Kathy Hochul actually jumped in and bragged about it. Like, this is something good. Sure, I'm giving your money to the illegal alien children that you want to go home. Why is it that every Democrat is so determined to let the public know how they care more about people who are not from this country than they care about average, everyday American citizens? I mean, I would hazard a guess and say that there's a lot of suffering Americans in the state of New York. Kathy Hochul, that $7 million could have went to serve them and maybe lift up American citizens. It's the same with all those tens of millions of dollars in grants that I'm talking about. Why are they giving this money to people in other parts of the world who are obviously not doing anything to help the United States of America? There should be a qualifier on any money that goes out, and it should have a measurable impact in a positive way. And if that doesn't happen, I think they should have to pay that money back. So anyways, Kathy Hochul announced that the state of New York will be shelling out over $7 million to cover the legal bills for more than 1,000 unaccompanied migrant children across New York. It's actually a $7.25 million fund that will cover an estimated 1,400 migrant kids facing removal proceedings. That includes about 250 who are in detention. And this is going to be run through the state government, of course. New York State Attorney General Letitia James and Commie Manhattan Mayor Zoran Mamdani is also going to be part of it. The announcement came after the Trump administration let its contract with a network of about 100 providers working with migrant kids nationwide lapse in July. Why should we be paying for any of it? Put them on a plane and send them home. That, my friends, is due process. You come here to the United States illegally, you go through immigration court, and you go home. She said it's cruel. It's illegal. And for nearly 2 decades, our federal government required by law that these children be protected when they cross the border. The Trafficking Victims Protection Reauthorization Act of 2008 was passed under George W. Bush's tenure, and it required the U.S. government to provide legal representation for kids in deportation proceedings. So children caught crossing into the U.S. alone are generally entrusted to the federal government and then placed in the care of an adult sponsor, typically a parent, or, as we've seen, typically into the hands of a child trafficker. And I think that this law was passed in order to make it easier for these kids to go into the child trafficking pipeline. Certainly, the administration is aware of how many children were trafficked under former administrations. And so their efforts are to stop that from continuing under this administration. So Hochul retweeted this, and she said, "You're damn right I did." And I don't know why she's proud of that, but either way. Principled Enigma, he says, the First Amendment does not cover speech that incites rebellion or insurrection. Messaging that supports an ideology that is against the foundations of this country, like communism or Sharia law, is the kind of speech that incites rebellion and insurrection. I agree with you. He also says they have physically already infiltrated our country. They have. It's up to us to allow them to infiltrate our minds, people. Please don't let that happen. Be anchored in truth, not delusion. Yes, and listen to this. We've talked on many different occasions about Chinese nationals and specifically members of the Chinese Communist Party, members of the People's Liberation Army, members of the Chinese intelligence bureaus coming to the United States of America and buying sensitive property, whether it is farmland that abuts a military base, or in this instance, a historic building in Washington, D.C. that is only 650 feet away from the White House. Now, this is a historic 9-story building that overlooks the White House complex, and it's just been purchased by a foundation that's controlled by one of these Chinese intel assets. It's a man who has reported ties to multiple Chinese Communist Party security and influence organizations. This is the old Securities Building. It's located at 15th Street in Washington, D.C., and as I said, it's approximately 650 feet northeast of the White House grounds. It was purchased on July 21st for $8.4 million by the Pkwy and Family Foundation. And the foundation's namesake, Pkwy, is the guy who has been identified in Chinese records as Qi Feli. He's reportedly held positions connected to China's public security system and the Chinese Communist Party United Front apparatus. That is the same organization that is infiltrating the United States of America through people like Neville Roy Singham and seeking to foment disaster and revolution at the hands of these commie infiltrators. Now, according to an investigation done by the Daily Caller and their translations of Chinese government and university records, Mr. Qi began his career as a detective at the Shanghai Public Security Bureau's Criminal Investigation Team. Now, the Shanghai Public Security Bureau operates under China's Ministry of Public Security. This is the powerful state security organization that's responsible for policing, domestic intelligence, and political control. They've also connected Kwi to at least 3 additional organizations that are associated with the CCP's United Front Work Department, including service on the executive committee of the Shanghai branch of the All China Federation of Returned Overseas Chinese. If people escape China and come to the United States or some other Western nation, these people will go to great lengths to kidnap them and make them forced into coming back to China. Now, the bipartisan U.S.-China Economic and Security Review Commission describes the United Front work as an effort by CCP agencies and affiliates to co-opt or pressure people and organizations outside the party into advancing the agenda of Beijing. A 2026 commission brief explains that the United Front relationships can also facilitate intelligence collection by China's security services. It's not hard in Washington, D.C. to co-opt a politician or a bureaucrat. You give them a girl and a pile of cocaine, and next thing you know, you own them for the rest of their career. Now, Mr. Kwi also served as honorary chairman of the Hong Kong Immigration Department Staff Association, and he reportedly helped organize events introducing Hong Kong students to Shanghai SWAT personnel. A university announcement cited by this investigation further claims that Kwi had received special forces training and he participated in combat-themed exercise while he was enrolled at the Shanghai Jiao Tong University Master's Program. He's also reportedly a sniper. So the fact that he has purchased a building that overlooks the White House complex by 650 feet, theoretically, if he was able to get his hands on a sniper rifle, he could very easily go back to his old training and cause a lot of havoc. In a 2021 statement translated by the Daily Caller, Kwi reportedly declared, "The CCP is like a kind but firm parent." Absolutely insane. So this property allows access for a big splashy intel op, as well as for more classic ops like listening posts or Stingray-like systems. They could collect phone calls, text messages, and digital exhaust. This is a quote from a former CIA operations officer named Brian Dean Wright. He said, "That's all great for collecting and targeting information to later bump or recruit targets out in the world who otherwise work inside a key U.S. government building. But what's especially alarming are emerging ops that properties like this allow. Hidden drone swarms or shipping container missiles. This is the kind of property where the next 9/11 might come from." Now, Kwi, whose Chinese name is Kwi Fili, has held at least 4 Chinese government positions, and we went through all of them. A classmate of his who has undergone this is from a Chinese newsletter. Classmate Kwi Fili, who has undergone special forces training, served as a commander in the Red-Blue battle and not only directed his troops to successfully capture enemy positions, but also killed 1/3 of the opposing forces with 42 shots, achieving the best individual sniper record. So yeah, I can't believe that they allowed this guy to buy this building. I mean, there have been so many instances of Chinese with government intelligence and spy ties coming in and scooping up these desirable American properties, closely aligned, closely situated next to bases or government buildings or universities. It's insane to me. And I can only hope now that people are realizing this happened. I mean, maybe they can force it to be undone. I mean, certainly the government, President Trump could tell them to go in and say, no, this is a national security interest. Why is anybody from a foreign country buying property in the heart of the government of America? In November 2025, outlets reported that the CCP-linked entities held properties near a number of military bases that included land near F.E. Warren Air Force Base, Grand Forks Air Force Base, Laughlin Air Force Base. There was also the many stories I've told you about Chinese ownership of American farmland. That is a national security issue there. So now we're taking it a step closer. Now they're getting as close to the president as they possibly can. That should not be allowed. Okay. Now, I guess that the intel that the president had mentioned about Iran wanting to assassinate him by attacking Air Force One, which led to the press corps taking a plane on their own, essentially making them very angry. This is information that came from Israel, and it sounds like the CIA did not believe it when they were told. So it's Israeli intelligence who informed U.S. intelligence officials of this supposed Iranian threat, but CIA analysts were skeptical of those claims. And officials informed the president. President Trump was moved off of Air Force One onto the smaller military aircraft in that clandestine catering truck mission. But the alleged threats came as President Trump was leaving that NATO summit. So the threats, again, were Israeli delivered, not U.S. generated, and viewed with low confidence. The CIA, the White House, the Israeli embassy in Washington, the Turkish embassy in Washington, and the State Department all did not respond to questions for comment. So there's a lot of questions about whether or not this was good intel or not. But President Trump here made a stunning announcement as he was speaking in New York before a group of law enforcement officials. He did speak about Governor Hochul. He spoke about communism. We don't need to go there. What really interested me is when President Trump said that the Strait of Hormuz would very quickly or very soon be declared a territory of the United States. Apparently, guys, we have new real estate in the Middle East. All right. Now, yes, I didn't even get a chance to talk about Syria. If you will remember, going back to President Trump's first term, there was an auspicious post talking about the reason we had that operation in Syria. Go back in time to President Trump's first term in office, and the media had been berating him, saying that he was weak and that he wasn't going to do what was necessary. And President Trump sent missiles into Syria. Now, immediately, the mainstream media started shellacking him. And they were like, oh, wow, Trump is now a real president because he sent bombs into another country. Very different from how they're treating him now. And there were a lot of panicans online who said, I'm done. Trump is starting World War III. We've killed hundreds or thousands of people in Syria. I'm done. Trump is a traitor. But then it came out that Trump didn't actually hurt anybody in Syria. What he hit was an airbase that turned out to be a clandestine Iranian nuclear site. And there was a post from Q talking about the fact that this site was for enrichment, and likely the uranium that was used was from the Uranium One operation. Well, the U.S. government, President Trump, just made a deal with the current Syrian government, and they went in there and they cleared out that old uranium enrichment site that had previously been run by Iran. So everything that happened those many years ago has now finally come to pass, and we have perhaps a good amount of hope that we can look to, which will show the provenance, the signature of that uranium, and maybe it will lead to some more legal actions. I mean, you know, these people have committed treason. They deserve to face justice, and many of us are waiting for that. All right. You know, Ravelin, I don't know how to speak Chinese, bro. So you're going to have to forgive me on that. All right. Now, we also have some new information about that plane swap that took place. This is actually something that was now leaked to the Washington Post. First of all, whomever leaked information about the president's clandestine maneuvers and travels on either Air Force One or whatever his original, or whatever that military plane was, That person has also committed treason. That is a highly dangerous security leak, and that person needs to go to prison. Now, the only thing we've seen so far was that former Air Force admiral who had his security clearance revoked. We don't know what he said or if he said it or if he was just maybe somehow a conduit for whomever said it. But apparently somebody is still talking to the Washington Post. And Washington Post obviously is not giving up their sources. So this latest leak is now to CBS. We don't know if this is the original leaker or if it's a new leaker. But apparently this new leak has given this information about the intelligence gathering and the precise time this decision was made to switch President Trump to another plane. So CBS, of course, cites an anonymous source. They say, we're not authorized to discuss sensitive matters with Turkey's MIT Intel picked up information about this Iranian plot to fire this missile at Air Force One. So now the reason I'm covering this right after we talk about the Israeli information is because now we've got apparently two different sources of a potential Iranian attack on President Trump's airplane coming from two different countries. And keep in mind, Israel and Turkey do not get along. They don't care for each other. So the anonymous source tells CBS News the decision to swap President Trump's plane was made during the NATO summit. Honestly, I don't think that it takes a genius to figure that out, considering that, President Trump announced it. Hey, he even said it, that they had just gotten this information. Of course, they made the decision during the summit. But it was previously reported by the Wall Street Journal that the Israeli intel warned and the CIA didn't trust it. Now, the thing about this is we've got all of these competing interests. I don't trust the CIA. I think the CIA is moving in a better direction, but there are so many entrenched deep state bureaucrats at the CIA. It is very, very easy to reconcile that many of the people on the payroll are probably not good. Okay, they may have gone in with the proper intentions, but the CIA is a rogue intel organization, and I don't trust them. I would be a lot more comfortable if the CIA was, perhaps just, ended, and then their intelligence gathering capabilities were given to different intel agencies. I mean, we've got so many of them; it doesn't need to be them. But I don't know if the CIA is saying that the Israeli intel was bad because they wanted President Trump to be targeted, or because they believe that Israel is trying to manipulate the government. But the fact that we've got this Turkish intel now also being reported, that obviously gives a little bit more veracity to it. So, yeah, TNTND. So this is a military operation. I'm still effing confused. Stop. Yes, I have no idea who is in charge or who's doing what. We have no idea. It is all so confusing. All right, so whomever leaked this, they obviously need to be caught as well. Now, I know that the Pentagon is doing whatever they can to try to figure out who is leaking this stuff. But, I feel like there's a sense of urgency here. The president's life is on the line. Even if the president and a lot of good people are in key positions within the government, there are so many places for these people to bed down and bide their time or commit a major damage. I mean, you take a look at any of the various releases by O'Keefe Media Group, and that proves to you the deep state is alive and well. You're a genius. You know how to speak Mandarin. If only I can say xi. That's about it. Principled Enigma says, what frightens me most about any of our intelligence agencies is the continued possibility of sleeper Islamic operatives. They have physically already infiltrated. So I read that one. Yeah, Islamic operatives, but I'm not even only concerned about them. I mean, there are ample opportunities for so many people of so many different backgrounds to be embedded. The thing about Islamists is that they're more obvious. They are Zak Paine. Zak Paine. Oh, yes. They call me Zak Paine. Thank you. All right. So you guys may have heard that some deranged, TDS suffering leftist scumbag has just defaced another memorial in Washington, D.C., attacking the greatest generation, the veterans of World War II. They've already damaged the Lincoln reflecting pool because they hate President Trump. Now they have gone after another monument in Washington, D.C. This is the World War II Memorial, and it was reported that it was vandalized on Thursday. Somebody dropped bubbly soap into it, probably just Dawn, and then they spray painted graffiti with a nasty message. The memorial fountain was overflowing with suds, and then this loser painted the words, "Clean hands, dirty money," on one of the surfaces. And then they also splattered red and green paint around. Apparently, let me actually show you some of the damage here. This has a happy ending, just so you guys know. President Trump said, our beautiful World War II memorial was just hit by spray painting vandals. There can be no greater insult to those American heroes who died in World War II. First, the reflecting pool. Now this. We are on their trail. Where do these animals come from? So hold on. Apparently, they don't have the picture of it in here. But the vandalism is occurring with like no forethought or I guess concept of the damage that they're going to do, because they caught the person who did it, and they caught the person who did it because this moron posted it on her Facebook. Take a look at this. This is her live streaming herself, posting it as she is doing the defacement. It is shocking. It shocks the mind. It shocks the conscience. It makes no sense that these people, they claim to care about the country, but then they go and do something like this. It's obvious that they hate the country. They hate the people who died to give them the right to even live and go freely moving about the United States. That's not all. Because this moron posted herself on Facebook defacing the World War II memorial, they caught her. They figured out who she was very, very quickly. She's not a tranny. It's actually a woman. She's just not very good looking. So Janine Pirro posted, vandalizing our World War II memorial is a despicable attack on a sacred monument honoring the Americans who fought and died for our freedom. Those Americans include my father and grandfather, my grandfather as well, and my father as well. This morning, we are filing 2 felony charges: depredation against property of the United States and destruction of veterans memorials in federal district court against Melissa L. Ferris. Offenses that carry penalties of up to 10 years in prison. She is now in custody. So this is her at the time she's doing it. You heard her in the video. She said she was going to wait around to be arrested, but apparently they didn't come fast enough. So she ended up leaving. And then she decided later on that she was a little bit upset about the fact that she was probably going to go to prison. So here she is in another video that she posted on Facebook. And of course, this is making the rounds now because they figured out who she was and they're ready to put her in prison. Yes. So she made her way into federal district court. She also posted a video of herself on the way. So we know that she's been charged with this criminal complaint. She is likely looking at 10 years in prison. And that is a really, really sad thing. But she definitely feels bad about it now. And she ought to, because it is a disgusting thing for anybody to do. All right, you guys, let me say thank you to Darla, who says, I nominate you to give Gigi a badge for mod. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I have officially modded her, so good job, Gigi. Thank you to Seanjo for 3 cookies. I appreciate it. And then Jack of Spades 23 says, make her a toothbrush urinal scrubber on a base for the rest of her life. And then Boba Finu says, Zak Paine, a very dangerous spy. Oh, my goodness. All right, you guys. I also need to tell you about yet another very cool sponsor for this program. And actually, no, I'm sorry. I will not be able to do that. We're going to have to save that one. Let me bring up this one instead. Our friends over at Rumble Premium. You guys, I'm sure you've noticed that Rumble is not slowing down. More creators, more content, and a platform that's actually putting users and free speech first. If you've been watching here regularly, there is a way to upgrade your entire experience. Right now, Rumble is running a limited time summer sale on Rumble Premium, and it's the lowest price they've ever offered. With Premium, you get all the ad-free viewing across the platform. There's no pre-rolls. There's no interruptions, just the content that you came for. Plus, you unlock exclusive content from top creators like Steven Crowder, Dr. Disrespect, or even me, Zak Paine, Red Pill 78, special live events, and more you won't see anywhere else. This is the deal. Normally, Rumble Premium is $99 a year, but during the summer sale, you can lock it in for only $69 a year for life. And it's not just 1 year. It's every year you stay subscribed, you get to keep that $69 rate. There's no promo code or extra steps. If you're a new subscriber, just go to rumble.com/premium, and that summer sale price is already applied. Once again, rumble.com/premium to lock in the lowest price that Rumble has ever offered. Ad-free exclusive content and a price that never goes back up, but only if you grab it before the summer sale ends. And then, of course, I need to play some video games. I'm not going to be able to do it this weekend. I'll be doing it next weekend. But thank you very much once again to Rumble. Okay, let me get this pulled over here. And we are now going to talk about the main event. Now, I promised you a Democrat mayor who was arrested for fraud. But not only that, I've got multiple Democrat mayors who have been arrested for fraud in multiple jurisdictions. It seems to me that these people just happen to be crooks from the very get-go. There is no Breaking Bad. They were always bad. First of all, we have the former mayor of Columbus, Mississippi. Well, Vice Mayor Joseph Mickens, yes, a Democrat. He's been arrested and indicted for fraud. Mickens has been accused of receiving funds for city projects and then bid rigging while he was in office. He is facing up to 30 years in prison and thousands of dollars in fines. Here he is in your moment of zen being arrested. Joseph Mickens has been arrested and he's been transferred into custody. All right. Now, in addition to that, we also have a situation in Texas. 5 current and former Refugio, Texas city officials have been arrested this week for fraud after they allegedly mishandled hundreds of thousands of dollars that spanned over 19 transactions. Refugio Mayor Wanda Dykes was charged with misapplication of fiduciary property, a first-degree felony for misusing funds from the Refugio Economic Development Corporation between October of 2023 and October of 2025. City Secretary Callie Schreckengost was also charged with misapplication of fiduciary property. Current City Council member Ixtalawaxatl, somebody's going to know how to say that, Ixtlahuatl-Vasquez, a former city council member, Frank Hosey, and former city council member Michael Roca were all hit with third-degree felony charges for abuse of official capacity. Now, according to their indictment, the state claimed that over $1 million was misapplied to payments, audit services, garbage collection, and festivals. So this was a result of a grand jury investigation. They returned the indictments this week after a Texas Rangers investigation. You don't want to mess around with the Texas Rangers. Mayor Wanda Huff Dykes and Town Secretary Callie Gray Schreckengast turned themselves into the Refugio County Jail on Wednesday. They were later released, but both were charged with misapplication of fiduciary responsibility, a first-degree felony. Their bond was each set at $25,000. These indictments accuse both of these ladies of misusing the funds from that Economic Development Corporation. According to the charging documents, Dukes exercised control over the EDC funds as mayor, and then Schreckengast had authority to authorize and sign disbursements as the town secretary. The indictments list 19 transactions totaling more than $1 million that the state says was misapplied, including payments for windstorm insurance, garbage collection, water main maintenance, audit services, a police department holiday event, and 4th of July festivals. After these arrests, the point that I'm trying to make becomes even easier, because over and over and over again, it just seems to be Democrat politicians can't keep their hands out of the cookie jar. Here, I just want to make sure you see the pictures here. We've got a Benetton rainbow of Democrat politicians who are guilty, well, accused, and will undoubtedly be found guilty of engaging in this behavior. Take a look. There is Mayor Wanda Dukes, Secretary Callie Schreckengast, and then the Vasquez, and then Frank Hosey and Michael Roca. Unending sources of fraud these people are. Doesn't matter who you are. If you're a Democrat, you can likely commit fraud. All right. Now this one is a real treat for me to bring to you, because I've talked about this guy before. This is the Democrat mayor of Lawrence, Massachusetts. Now, he has been accused of fraud and money laundering. Apparently, he used $1.6 million in COVID loans as a personal slush fund to pay off his mortgages. Now, I highlighted the fact that he had been accused previously. We were just waiting for the indictment. And yes, E.H. Kyle, I know there's no sound on the clips, and I can't do anything about it because we're already live. So for whatever reason, StreamYard wanted to take a shit on me today. Okay, but we talked about him also because he can't speak English. I don't know how in the hell he got elected, because he certainly can't campaign. His name is Brian DePena, and he used the proceeds from the COVID small business loans to fund his campaign, to pay his personal taxes, to pay off nearly $900,000 in high-interest hard money mortgages on his properties. And according to the charging documents, during the pandemic back in 2020 and 2021, DePena applied for a taxpayer-funded COVID-era economic injury disaster loan for his tire business. Now, the EIDL loan must be used as working capital to provide relief to businesses that suffered economic losses during COVID. However, DePena used the COVID loans to fund his struggling campaign, to pay off his 2 high-interest mortgages, and then to pay the back taxes. Now, he used this loan for his company, Tanaris Tire. He applied for a loan in the amount of $150,000 in June of 2020, and then he used the majority of that funds as working capital for the business. However, according to the charging documents, DePena needed more cash by early 2021, and it's alleged that his mayoral campaign was struggling to pay its bills. He owed the IRS for back taxes, and he owed almost $900,000 to 2 different private hard money lenders who were charging DePena 12 and 8% interest. And that's a lot more than the EIDL rate of 3.75. So the loans were taken out by him so that he could pay off these higher interest loans and then basically give himself some breathing room. So in April of 2021, he allegedly caused a request for an increase in the Tenaris Tire EIDL. On July 14th of 2021, the SBA approved an increase of the loan by $350,000, which brought the total up to $500,000. However, the SBA did not release the funds for another month. So while he was waiting, he allegedly sent these text messages, which were in Spanish because he does not speak English, to his accountant and financial advisor who had been assisting him with the EIDL application. He said, "Brother, call me. I'm in trouble. I don't want to pressure you, but I don't have time to wait for this loan. I'm in your hands. Brother, I need your help with this loan. I've been trying to reach you all week, and I have not been able to get it resolved. I know I'm bothering you a lot, but I have no other option. Only you can give me what I need. Brother, call me," he said. According to those documents, the $350,000 StreamYard is software. $350,000 in EIDL funds were electronically deposited into the Tenaris Tire bank account on August 16th, 2021. The pre-deposit balance of the account was only $20.23. Shortly thereafter, DePena allegedly paid $85,000 of that EIDL fund to the IRS to pay off personal tax debts. He also allegedly transferred $120,000 of the EIDL funds to a personal account and then used that money to write checks totaling up to $90,000 for his political action committee, the committee to elect Brian DePena. It's alleged that those checks were deposited into the DePena mayoral campaign account and characterized as loans to the campaign. Of course, no money was ever paid back. Now, the hard money, high-interest loans were still outstanding. And while that campaign continued to struggle financially, DePena allegedly caused a request for a second EIDL modification in October of 2021, because on October 27th, the SBA approved a modification that would increase the loan to $1,154,400, bringing the total that Tenaris Tire EIDL borrowed from the SBA and the federal government to $1,654,400. So on November 30th, $1.15 million in EIDL funds were electronically deposited into the Tenaris Tire account, and DePena allegedly transferred the entire amount into one of his personal accounts that had a balance of $1,401. Then DePena allegedly used $42,112.96 of the EIDL funds for his mayoral campaign. He wrote checks to the campaign for $10,000 and then $32,112.96. The first check was deposited in the campaign account on December 2nd, and then the account allegedly had been overdrawn for about 20 days. So this guy was dirt poor. Finally, it's alleged that DePena used $883,293 from the EIDL funds to pay off his debts to those hard money lenders. And on December 9th, he then bought a $538,109.03 treasurer's check and used that to pay off another one of the loans. On December 18th, he bought a $345,000 treasurer's check and then used it to pay off the other loan. According to the charging documents, as of August 5th of this year, DePena had made only 16 payments on the Tenaris Tire EIDL, and the outstanding balance is approximately still $1,654,420. So the FBI went down to Texas and arrested Mayor Brian DePena for allegedly cashing in on a public health crisis and blatantly defrauding a government program meant to keep businesses afloat during the pandemic. It's alleged the mayor fraudulently obtained over $1.5 million in small business loans, which he then used as his own personal slush fund to pay those taxes, pay off that campaign, pay off those houses. It was not for emergency use, and he absolutely know it. It was basically being used as a personal ATM. When elected officials misuse federal funds for personal gain, they are breaking the trust of their constituents and breaking the law. Together with our partners, the FBI will continue to doggedly pursue anyone who defrauds the federal government. You'll be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, and that easy money won't seem so easy after all. Now, just in case you guys don't remember Brian DePena, I actually played a clip very similar to this in the past. This is Mayor This is the mayor of an American city, Lawrence, Massachusetts. He is from the Dominican Republic. I don't know how long ago he came here, but he never bothered to learn how to speak English. Listen to him. Because, again, I have questions about how he was elected. Because if this guy came to my house and I asked him, what's your policy on this? And he spoke in this manner, I'd be like, GTFO. That's not a joke. You might think that that's a skit or something like that. But no, this is how this dude talks. I have no idea how he actually was elected. Again, he's from the Dominican Republic. I don't know how long he's been here, but he never bothered to learn how to speak English. Now, one of the reasons I've spoken about this man before is because back in 2024, someone on his staff was arrested on fraud charge. Excuse me. Someone on his staff was arrested and pled guilty to the possession of child pornography. Right here. Former chief of staff to mayor in Lawrence pleads guilty to child pornography charges. This is him right here. Another Democrat getting wound up on child pornography charges. I wonder if the investigation into Mayor Brian DePena is what led to finding out that this guy working for him was a pedo, or if the pedo led to the investigation of Mayor Brian DePena. I don't know, but he pled guilty in December of 2024, and that's how I learned about Mayor Brian DePena in the first place. Absolutely shocking. Even more shocking, he didn't have a very good day. After he made his way down to the courthouse, he and his lawyer were attempting to leave and to stay away from the press, but his lawyer crashed his Dodge Charger, or maybe it's not a Dodge Charger. I think this is a Charger. Yeah, Dodge Challenger. Excuse me. Crashed his Dodge Challenger into a car that was parked ahead of him. Take a look at this. This is a bad day for both of them. And the lawyer is attempting to drive away from the scene of an accident after he just bumped into the car in front of him. Oh, man. And of course, driving a brand new Dodge Challenger and then smashing it into somebody else, that's also got a sting. Oh, man. Anyways, I can't wait to see how long this guy goes away for. There's no way he's going to get over it. I remember back when the government was trying to give out all of that free money. And I had friends who had businesses, and they were like, oh, yeah, I'm totally going to get a loan for my business, and then we'll never have to pay it back. And I was like, I wouldn't be too sure about that. I think that it's a bad idea for you to saddle yourself with a couple of $100,000 worth of debt and think that you're never going to be held accountable for it. And believe me, they were. I mean, I had a couple of people I know who had to who had to file for bankruptcy, and they basically lost their businesses because of it. And I don't even know if that money goes away or if they just like ding your credit or they tell you that you can pay it back in smaller amounts. But they were trying to get me to take out a $150,000 loan. I was like, dude, I'm a podcast. Okay. Like I have, like one employee, myself, and then my wife. All right. That's it. And so like, I don't need $150,000. The SBA was calling me. They were emailing me. They like wanted people to take that money out. probably because they were thinking that it was going to eventually be something that people wouldn't have to pay back, or maybe they wanted to trap people in debt prison for the rest of their life. But I don't know, man. But I was like, I will respectfully decline your offer to give me a check for $150,000. And believe me, that wasn't easy, because I could have used $150,000, but I knew that there's no way I was going to be spending $150,000 just on the podcast. Would have went for a lot of other things. Yes, it sounded like a trap, Jetpack Jones. All right, now, we're not done talking about Democrat politicians. Now, we're going to go to Jackson County, Missouri, where the interim executive, a man by the name of Phil Lavoda, has just also been federally indicted. I know, Brewbark. I know. And there's nothing I can do about it. We learned this at the start of the show, and it's very unfortunate. Everybody on the platform said they just wanted me to continue going because the vast majority of the show is me talking. So, yeah, I apologize for that, and hopefully it works tomorrow. But there's nothing I can do. All right, so Lavoda is accused of trying to bribe a candidate to drop out of a political race in exchange for a position in the government and money. Let's take a look at the local coverage. Now, I do just want to say, of course, as Mr. Lavoda claims that he never did this, the federal government is not just going to bring a 5-count felony indictment against you unless they have something. If they had a series of communications and conversations about what this position in the government was going to look like and what the salary was going to be, I tend to believe that somebody has it on tape. So he's kind of screwed. Wah, 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 wah. Oh, that's the wrong one. That's my favorite sound effect. Okay. Oh, also, this is an update for you out of Georgia. Former Georgia State Rep Sharon Henderson has just pled guilty to fraudulently obtaining nearly $18,000 in COVID unemployment benefits. Now, she was actually in the Georgia State House at this time. She was definitely working, but she tried to scam the federal government, and she successfully was given this check for $18,000. She was not unemployed. There was no reason for her to do this other than the fact that she's a Democrat and she's a scammer. So I'm glad to be able to report that she has now pled guilty. We don't know what she's going to be sentenced to, but she is definitely going to have a difficult time now. All right. Now, from the crimes of the United States of America, we are going to take a trip across the pond, and we're going to go back to a familiar face from the Ukraine Biden crime family saga. And that is our man, Viktor Shokin, right here, the former Ukrainian Prosecutor General Viktor Shokin. This is the same guy that Joe Biden publicly threatened and forced out of office in 2016 because he was investigating Burisma and his son Hunter. Now, he has written a new book. It's called Biden's Corruption and War: The True Story of the $1 billion Prosecutor. that hundreds of billions of American taxpayer dollars connected to Ukraine were recycled through political interests and globalist networks. This is essentially confirmation of everything we knew, but I am anxious to hear it from the man himself. Now, according to a column by Blaze Media, they cite Shokin's first-person account. And as we expected, massive sums of USAID, USAID money intended for Ukraine were recycled into political and globalist networks. He alleges no fewer than $350 billion in American taxpayer money ended up diverted into these opaque channels amid the chaos of war. Arms deals were also tainted by corruption. Now, anytime you've got war, it facilitates disorder. And I think this is one of the reasons why the deep state loves conflict and war happening. Also, trafficking of Ukrainian women and children, just as we've shown and suspected. This book paints the conflict itself as a vehicle for the enrichment and influence far beyond the battlefield. Now, Viktor Shokin, again, was the prosecutor general. He was investigating Mykola Zlochevsky and Burisma Holdings. This is the same corrupt energy company that put Hunter Biden on its board of directors and paid him an eye-watering salary for his, quote, expertise, but he had no expertise in the energy sector. The only thing that Hunter Biden was an expert at was cooking and smoking crack cocaine and being the son of one Joseph Robinette Biden. Shokin says his office was moving against Burisma. They were seizing Mykola Zlochevsky's assets, and they were getting uncomfortably close to Biden family connections. And that is when the pressure campaign from Washington intensified. Now, Joe Biden later famously boasted about it on video. He told Ukrainian officials they weren't getting the $1 billion unless that prosecutor was gone. And he famously said, well, son of a bitch, he got fired. Biden called himself the vice king in Ukraine circles for a reason. I did not know that. Shokin's book details all of the meetings, the influence over then President Petro Poroshenko, and the coordinated efforts that led to the ending of his tenure. So Shokin presents a stark thesis. He argues that the war in Ukraine became a vehicle for corruption and hidden agendas extending far beyond the battlefield. Exactly as we expected. Now, among his most explosive allegations is that claim of specifically $350 billion in U.S. taxpayer money getting recycled through political and globalist networks. Keep in mind, he's talking about the Ukrainian war that took place in the early 2010s. This is the one where the U.S. State Department, Victoria Nuland, was caught on audio talking about how they were going to shuffle the government around, who they wanted to be in positions of power, and how they could use that to benefit themselves. This is during the Obama administration. Also, of course, the claim that the trafficking of Ukrainian women and children was happening. I think we all knew that was going on as well. Anytime you've got a conflict zone, it's an excellent opportunity for the most evil people in the world to kidnap and traffic women and children. And, of course, Viktor Shokin paid a terrible price, personally and professionally, for getting so close to the source of that corruption in the Biden crime family. So Shokin gives his account of the pressure campaign. He writes that Biden was known in Ukraine as the vice king and portrays the vice president as wielding extraordinary influence over Petro Poroshenko and the Ukrainian government. Shokin lays out names, dates, meetings, and episodes that Shokin says connect Burisma in the investigation he was undergoing to the efforts to fire him, exactly as we suspected. Now, Shokin also said that it was his firm personal conviction that his dismissal resulted from that Burisma investigation. He characterized the threatened withholding of that loan guarantee as corruption, although he also said he did not want to present unproven facts as established evidence. This was in 2023. Now that it's 2026 and Shokin has had an opportunity to perhaps get his ducks in a row, he is not so hesitant. He's actually got the sauce and he's bringing it. In 2019, there were also allegations of missing IMF and American funds that were connected directly to Ukraine and Privatbank, yet another corrupt organization connected to Zlochevsky. All right. Now, Boba Finu says, that sounds like the famous Mexican spy, Zak Paine. Zak Paine, international man of mystery, squinting, swall queen, good disguise. Oh my God. Also, thank you to Vixter for the fleet over on Pilled. Thank you for all your hard work, Zach. I listen to you somewhere almost every day. I appreciate it. Thank you for sticking around, even though I don't have the audio working properly today. Sean Joe, thank you for 3 more cookies as well. I appreciate you. All right. Now, in the final instance of an alternate elector case still plotting its way through the court system here in the United States, justice has finally been done in Nevada. A judge has dismissed for the second time the Nevada Trump 2020 alternate electors case. These people have gone through years of heartache as a result. Clark County Judge Mary Kay Holtis yesterday once again dismissed the Nevada 2020 electors case. Nevada's Democrat Attorney General Aaron Ford is expected to appeal. You'll remember in December 2020, Republican electors in Nevada cast ballots for Donald Trump. Nevada cast procedural votes for president and vice president to preserve President Trump's campaign legal challenges. And the Trump campaign, rightfully so, asked their electors to cast their votes as litigation was making its way through the court system. And we saw that happen a number of times. In 1960, with the election of Nixon versus Kennedy. In 2024, Judge Mary Kay Holtis dismissed this case against the 6 Nevada GOP electors. But the judge said Clark County was not the appropriate venue to bring the charges. The judge agreed that the case should have been brought in Carson City. So the Nevada Supreme Court last year responded by reviving the Trump 2020 electors case days after President Trump issued sweeping pardons of his allies and attorneys. It was a unanimous 6-0 decision where the Nevada Supreme Court overruled the lower court's decision and revived the case against the Trump electors. Nearly 3 years ago, Nevada's Democrat Attorney General Aaron Ford announced these charges against the 6 Trump alternate electors. And when Democrats cast alternate electors, they call them dueling electors. But when Republicans cast alternate electors, they're called fake electors, and you get indictments from Democrat attorney generals. So these 6 Trump electors were indicted on felony charges by a grand jury in the 8th Judicial District of Nevada. When the efforts to undermine faith in our democracy began after the 2020 election, I made it clear that I would do everything in my power to defend the institutions of our nation and our state, Aaron Ford said in a statement. We cannot allow attacks on democracy to go unchallenged. Today's indictments are the product of a long and thorough investigation. And as we enter our litigation, I am confident that our judicial system will see justice done. Among those charged are some of the top officials from the Nevada Republican Party, including Nevada Republican Party Chairman Michael McDonald, Nevada Republican Party National Committeeman Jim DeGraffenreid, Clark County Republican Chairman Jesse Law, and Story County Clerk Jim Hindle, as well as Republican operatives Sean Meehan and Eileen Rice. Each of the defendants were charged with felonies, including offering a false instrument for filing, offering a forged instrument, and offering a false instrument titled Certificate of the Votes of the 2020 electors from Nevada. They gave this to the President of the Senate, the Archivist of the United States, the Nevada Secretary of State, and the United States District Court out of Nevada. But yesterday, Judge Mary Holtis agreed once again with the defendants and ruled that it was their right to challenge the official election results. The judge said the defendants did not intend to deceive government officials. She said the fact that defendants openly announced both their actions and the asserted purpose, rather than concealing their conduct or attempting to secretly induce government reliance, weighs against a reasonable inference that they acted with fraudulent intent. Thank God it's finally over. Hopefully the Attorney General is going to let this one lie. All right. John Brennan thinks President Trump is going to meddle with the election. This is a clip, so I'm not going to play it because we're so close to the end here. We do have a motion to dismiss the case against James Comey, and he's claiming that his post, the 8647 post in Seychelles, could not have been a threat against President Trump. Not because of the meaning, but because President Trump was traveling in Qatar and the United Arab Emirates. He was 7,000 miles from North Carolina. So Comey is insinuating that even if it was a threat, it wasn't really a threat because he couldn't have acted on the threat. I don't think that that's going to be a very good rationale. James Comey is not going to have this case dismissed. I think he's probably going to get screwed. All right, so quick update on the Wisconsin election debacle that took place this week. So apparently those 1 in 5 human errors that we spoke about yesterday, it was actually caught on camera, and it backs up everything that Brian said in his original article, meaning that the only way that you could get the export of the audit log is if you went through no fewer than like 4 steps confirming that you were exporting the audit log and not exporting the election results. So it was actually caught on camera. And it just further goes to show that the fact that this happened 5 separate times means that somebody wanted this to happen. Somebody clicked the wrong button on the tabulators 5 different times. Don't forget, Brian has date night. Yes, I am going to transfer you guys over to date night. The fact that it happened in 5 different instances means that it only could have happened because somebody was intentionally doing it. All right. And Peter Bernegger has a thread that I wanted to read through. He said the same person downloaded all 5 of the tabulators with the wrong data at the city of Milwaukee's central count this past Tuesday. That person, we now know, was Marisha Harris. She should have downloaded the votes, but she downloaded the audit logs. And of course, we got this story that we've been talking about. Now, Ms. Harris became the deputy director of the City of Milwaukee Elections Office in 2025. The other 4 USB sticks had the votes on them, and they were downloaded by other election workers, but not Harris, not the person who was running the show. So this reporter from CBS knew this information, but withheld it in his reporting, maybe because he didn't want people making comments about DEI or something like that. But the liberal propagandist reporters who did report on this also knew this, and they withheld it from everybody. Nobody wanted to talk about the fact that this was a black woman who had done this. It may have nothing to do with it. But the fact that they withheld her name and led everybody to speculate about who it could have possibly been, I feel like that is pretty dishonest. So these people who did break the story followed Miss Harris around and not any other election workers. And they also did not see that this had taken place. Here she is right here. She's got braces. I don't know if she still has braces or if that was just at the time, but I don't know. She seems kind of young. But I don't know if she deserves to have this position or not. But it just further goes to show that the proper people in the proper positions are key. All right, you guys, I will go ahead and call it there so that I can send you guys over to date night with Brian and Christy. And I need to go get some dinner with Lisa. I will be live tonight on OnlyLands if you want to join me there. Or you can be here at 5 p.m. tomorrow because I have a really cool interview that I'm about to put out for you. It's a segment. So anyways, I will give you guys a short preview of what it is. So I recently have made the decision that I should probably try to figure out how I'm going to retire. And I don't have a lot of time to do it. And so I started looking into whatever vehicles I might have available to me as a self-employed person. And I stumbled upon something that gave me a lot of concern. And I think that it's going to affect a lot of people in the audience. And so I have somebody that I invited on the show tomorrow, and we're going to be talking about it. And I go through and I show you guys all the sauce so that you can maybe do some investigations on your own. So be here tomorrow at 5 p.m. I'll put the show out, and it's going to stream like normal. It should go out to every platform equally. But that will be at 5, and then I'll be back on Monday at 5 p.m. So hopefully I see you guys then. Good luck. God bless. Peace. No, I'm not thinking about retiring. I'm just thinking about when I do retire, how am I going to save money? So I should probably start doing that before I actually want to retire, which I don't even know that that's ever going to happen.